Well, good morning again, congregants and friends. It is always a joy and a delight to be with you. Our service today is entitled No Strangers Among Us. And today we're going to talk about several different topics. We're going to talk about bias, specifically implicit bias. We're going to talk about the teachings and the life and the work in the book, See No Stranger by Valarie Kaur. And we'll also talk a little bit about what is a warrior sage. Three interesting topics. So let me begin with, I wonder how many of us believe that we are free of bias. There's one, free of bias, yeah. Some there?
Just
Pretending, yeah. Free of bias, yeah. Well, most of us do believe we're free of bias. I can't speak for anyone, but that's a very common response. And yet there's a set of surprising tools that are promoted by Harvard University called the Harvard Implicit Bias Test. I know somebody that probably took one. Did you? So there are 14 or so tests that allow you to just respond very quickly online. And they're tests that will pretty much see which direction is your comfort direction in certain separate groups, that I know last time I took it, what it included was race, gender, religion, disability, body size, skin tone, ethnic backgrounds, or even which president, one president over another. Oh yes. So you'll find a link this week in the Weekly Reader. I'm going to send it to Leandra. So if you'd like to take the test yourself, I highly recommend it. You have many choices, and it's very interesting. I took the tests, took a bunch of them, but I do want to share that you might be surprised by the results. Mm-hmm. Because the results you'll often lean towards the group that is most like you as your comfort zone. And one of my tests, and I took it a few times, was about gay, straight, right? And though I'd say 99% of the people I know and love in my life are straight, I felt comfortable with gay. Interesting. That's my world that I feel most comfortable. You would wonder why, because that's the most like me. So why is that? Our minds are primed to see the world in terms of us and them. We can't help it. The moment we look upon another person's face, our minds discern in an instant whether they are one of us, part of our family, community, political party, religious organization, or one of them. This happens before conscious thought begins. That's implicit bias. We don't think it. It's an internal experience. Our bodies actually release hormones that support us in trusting those that are like us and fearing those who are not like us. For most, it's easier to empathize with people that you identify as like you. And this again is how that primal mind works. It was essential for our survival when we lived in clans, right? When we lived in rural areas. Somebody that wasn't like you or spoke a different language, right? Or wore different clothing, they were the threat. But now, as we've moved on, as humanity has grown, that fear response does not support our survival any longer. It actually can destroy us rather than protect us. This desire to be other from other people. And many of those in power have harnessed this fear as a way to control people. There's this amazing Catholic priest that I love. His name is Father Richard Rohr, and he shares the following statement. He says, human beings have found the most effective way to legitimize their instinct towards fear and hatred. They imagine that they are fearing and hating on behalf of something holy and noble, God, religion, truth, morality, their children, or love of country. It takes away all guilt, and one can even think of oneself as representing the moral high ground or being responsible and prudent as a result. It rarely occurs to most people that are in that space that they may be becoming exactly what they fear or hate. We live in a time where science and spirituality are beginning to validate one another. In ancient spiritual truth, it was increasingly confirmed that it is an ancient spiritual truth, and it is confirmed by science, that we are all part of one another. We are all part of one another. We share this common ancestry with every body alive on earth. The atoms we breathe in our breath has passed through the lungs of all of our ancestors long ago. We could look upon any face and truthfully say, "You are part of me that I do not know yet." The call to connect beyond flesh and blood is ancient. Indigenous leaders, spiritual teachers, and social reformers across centuries have echoed this call. Buddha taught unending compassion. Abraham invited everyone to his tent. Jesus urged us to love our neighbors. Muhammad called us to care for the orphan. And Mirabai sang songs of love without limits. Each expanded the circle of who counts as one of us, made it bigger and bigger, therefore, who is also worthy of our care and concern. In Sanskrit, the word is Tat Swam Asi, I am that. And we all know the word in Ubuntu, the word Ubuntu from Reverend Pippa's stole. I am because you are. You know, there's a common denominator amongst the folks that come to these services in our congregation, even newcomers. So everybody loves books. We're book people. Right? There's a book in our hand. If you're on Zoom, I see bookcases behind you, so many of you. There's all books. And today I want to talk a little bit about a book that impacted me. I received it as a gift from one of my friends from seminary. And the book is called See No Stranger. And it was written by Sikh activist. People used to use the term Sikh, but the correct pronunciation is Sikh. Mm-hmm. A Sikh activist, and her name is Valarie Kaur. And she describes this book as a memoir and manifesto of what she calls revolutionary love. I've followed her for years, and more recently I've heard and followed what she's done, and she's had events in the marches she's been involved in Minnesota, fighting for the rights of immigrants and those that are being persecuted by ICE. I want to share a little bit about Valarie's life and what she shares in her book. It gives us a sense of who she is and why she brings her story and her teachings to us. Valarie grew up in California, where her Sikh family had farmed for a century. And her first encounter with hate crimes was in the schoolyard. Isn't that where most people's first encounter with hate crimes is? And it was when a friend told her she would go to hell because she wasn't Christian. And somebody called her a black dog because her skin was brown. She ran home to her beloved grandfather, and who was her champion in her life. And he dried her tears, and he shared the words of the founder of Sikhism, Guru Nanak, and he said, "I see no stranger, I see no enemy." Her grandfather taught her to look upon every face with wonder, and if she did, she would be open to hearing their stories, even when it was difficult. This practice would help her refuse to hate others, even when they hated her. In the Sikh tradition, the Sikhs vow to protect even those who would harm them. Valarie writes, to be a Sikh is to walk the path of the warrior saint. And that's the thing I mentioned in the beginning, warrior saint. I love that. In 2001, Valarie was a student at Stanford University while she watched the horror of 9/11, like most of us did that are old enough, not all of us, that were old enough to see that day. And she, in that day, saw a face flash on the screen, a face that was that of a brown-skinned man with a turban and a beard, and she realized that America's new enemy looked just like her beloved grandfather. The turban that's meant to represent a commitment to service and kindness suddenly cast six as terrorists. 6 became targets of hate alongside of Muslim siblings. The first person that was killed after 9/11 in a hate crime was a gentle Sikh man who was standing outside his gas station in Arizona. And he was murdered by a man who called himself a patriot. Does that sound familiar?
Mm-hmm.
His story and so many others barely made the evening news. Valarie didn't know what to do with that, but she had a camera and a good friend who was a Sikh person as well. And they decided to travel around the United States and document hate crimes and listen to stories. Her first stop was to meet that murdered man's widow. And Valarie sat with her and wept with her. And she asked, "What would you like to tell the people of America?" And she expected anger or blame. But instead, the widow said, "Tell them thank you. 3,000 Americans came to my husband's memorial. They did not know me, but they wept with me. Tell them thank you." Valarie went on to create a documentary with her colleague and she went on personally to become a civil rights lawyer and work on the front lines against hate. She calls her work, as I mentioned before, revolutionary love, the choice to labor for others who do not look like us and who might not be like us. She believes that revolutionary love is the call of our time. Many of us, when we hear, though, about loving our opponents or those who hate us, we roll our eyes and want to say, "Oh boy, not that again." We just don't want to hear it, because when we hear the word love, we often think about sappy love, powerless love, complacent love. Valarie admits that when people say love is the answer, she can cringe at times too. But she also says that love that is practiced in 3 directions can be revolutionary. And here are her 3 directions of revolutionary love, the work of the warrior sage. First is the love of others, to see no stranger. This is a shift from otherizing to belonging. It's one of the things we hope to be in a Unitarian congregation, especially this. It was created so all people can come together and be of support for one another, regardless of our love, our divisions, color of our skin, sexual orientation, whatever. Everybody's welcome. Part of this, she suggests, is to train our eyes to look at a stranger on the street, subway, TV screen, and say, brother, sister, aunt, uncle, to look at them as they're part of our personal families. You are part of me I do not know yet. I choose to wonder about you rather than judge you. I will listen for your story. I will pick up a sword when you are in harm's way and protect you. Love becomes real when we feel the pain of others, when we grieve with them. And it becomes public when we stand for them. That's 1, love of others. Love of 2, love for opponents. Heal the wound. This is the hardest practice she shares. This is very, very Christian in many senses, if you look at it, but it's really the core of all religions. It does not excuse harm, but it means to see the woundedness beneath the woundedness that lies beneath harmful acts, listening without surrendering our values, and holding people accountable without dehumanizing others. When we aim our swords at people, little changes, but when we aim them at the systems that wound us all, transformation begins. That's where it's born. We could rage against injustice and still refuse to see anyone as disposable. And finally, and essentially, to love ourselves. To love opponents, we must love ourselves. Too many people, many of our teachers before us, Gandhi, King, many teachers told just to love other, just to love other. I know, Rhonda, I am third, You're always low on the list, right? In some spiritual communities, we're not supposed to care for ourselves. But too many of us, especially women of color, have been told to bury their rage, their grief, in the name of love. And what we suppress hardens into hate. There's wisdom in emotions. When we breathe through the fire without letting it turn us bitter, love becomes truly revolutionary in all directions. Love becomes revolutionary when all three are practiced together. She bullets it like this: loving only others creates ineffectiveness and burnout. Loving only opponents creates self-erasure. And loving only ourselves is narcissism. But when we pull it all together, it is transformational. So what might a warrior sage of this time in our culture be? Or what might it look like? What might a warrior sage be like? So I'd like to reference something recent that happened that most of us, if not all of us, are familiar with. When Bad Bunny stepped on that stage on the Super Bowl, he did more than perform. He carried his people with him. He made the invisible visible. And he used the most powerful platform in America, in American culture, to honor language, identity, and community, so often pushed into the margins. That was See No Stranger. He widened the circle of belonging, and he did not do it by attacking people. He did it by confronting a system that profits from erasure. He tended the wound, and he did it without shrinking, without translating himself into something more acceptable, without abandoning the truth of who he is. That is love of self. This is a warrior saint. One who picks up the sword not to destroy but to protect, not to other but to make room, not from hate but from love. The stage became a sanctuary, the performance became a proclamation, and revolutionary love begins to look like belonging for all of us. So in closing, I'd like to ask you, how can revolutionary love awaken in your lives? What might it be like to choose to see others, opponents, and ourselves in ways that restore rather than diminish, that liberate rather than dehumanize, that connect rather than separate, that heal rather than harm? In the days ahead and to come, I invite us all to listen for the wisdom of the warrior saint within us. Thank you, everyone. May we be so. If you like this video, please like us on YouTube, subscribe to our YouTube channel, and click on the bell to be notified whenever we post a new video. Thank you.